you were here. Hey guys, welcome to a new video from NZ Pocket Guide. We are going to be talking about traveling in New Zealand. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about traveling in New Zealand. We're going to do the local travel news as well. We're going to do a lot of stuff because we kind of are the experts of traveling in New Zealand. But Laura, why are we the experts?
Well, this is Robin. And I'm Laura, and we're the team behind NZPocketGuide.com, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide, because it literally has thousands and thousands of articles to help you plan the perfect trip to New Zealand. Of course, when you're actually able to come to New Zealand, because yes, for the what feels like the 100th time during these live sessions, the borders are still closed to New Zealand to most international travelers. But I mean, if you are overseas, it's never too early to plan. And if you're already in New Zealand, then of course, NZPocketGuide.com is the best place to go and get lots of nice free information on making an awesome travel itinerary around New Zealand. But if you're not really into reading, because that's kind of what NZPocketGuide.com is all about, you do need to read quite a lot of stuff.
You need to do that reading.
You need to be able to read. If you're not really into all that, that's what this live Q&A session is for that we're doing right now. We do it every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. And if you want to know what time that is in your time zone, then we do have a handy link in the description below. Or even handier, you can always subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and you'll get a notification when we're about to go live. So what you need to do is you need to go onto the live chat, ask your New Zealand travel questions, and we will answer those for you. But if you do miss the live session and you can't go on the live chat, then you can always put your questions in the comments below.
Exactly, and we always pick them up and we answer them when we do have some time. And probably today we'll do at least one of them, so it's pretty cool. So, yeah, as usual, we're going to read all the questions or the comments you have in the live chat. Laura, do you want to get us started? What is Anthony Comstock saying?
I will get you started, because this live session, I can have a look at what the what's on the live chat.
We'll see for how long that lasts.
We'll see how long that lasts, yes. So Anthony says, Morena from Rodeo, California in the USA. Hope you are all fine.
We are all fine. So New Zealand is now, I mean, most of New Zealand is now on alert level 2, which means basically life is semi-normal. You know, you just have to wear masks, and then some really big gathering are not allowed and everything like that. And Auckland is still on alert level 4. And since we're not based in Auckland, well, life is nice. But we are very thankful for the fact that Auckland are taking one for the team of 5 million and are helping out by staying a lockdown for a little bit longer. We also have Nathan Bate that says, Kia ora, morning, Laura.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nathan. Are you staying with us for the whole live session today, or do you have to pop out to go to work at some point this morning? We have Clay Bryant that says, morning all, how are you doing, Clay? If you guys don't know, Clay is our mascot from Dunedin.
Our mascot.
Do you want to read what Martina says?
I haven't got that comment just yet.
So it works, but it doesn't work so much. But Martina says, good evening from Germany, Laura and Robin. How are you doing, Martina? How is it going for you in Germany? All right, so Laura, what's going on the channel for this week? Just, you know, warming up, getting people to in, and then we move on. We do the news, we do all that thing.
So, as per usual, we are still going through our recaps of New Zealand's biggest gap year, where a few years ago, Robin and I did 365 days of 365 activities all around New Zealand, and we filmed the entire thing. So we filmed more than 365 activities, and that's what this video series is all about, that we are putting up on the channel at the moment. So we have a look back at some of those activities, because obviously there are a few things that have changed since we did them. You know, tourism businesses come and go, especially during the COVID situation. So yeah, it's just a bit of an update video, and also just entertaining to watch if you're dreaming of coming to New Zealand, but we can't quite make it over.
And this week we'll leave Invercargill and get to Stewart Island. That's where we are at.
Where we're at. All right, and we also have coming up this week is our weekend getaway series. This time, weekend getaways from Greymouth.
Greymouth on the west coast.
It's on the west coast of the South Island. We also have answering your travel questions, which we've taken from the live sessions, which is the best cities for doing a working holiday visa in New Zealand. So if you are planning on doing a working holiday, we go through some of the best cities to go and do that. And we also have in our What's It Really Like To series, we are looking at what it's really like to do the Waitomo Glowworm Caves tour.
Here you go. So you know if it's worth your money. All right, so we have Jonathan Vincent that says, good morning all. I hope that you have had a great week. We have actually had a fantastic week. The weather was terrible for most of the week, but then when we decided to take a day off from work, there was beautiful sun, and we got to do some planting in the garden. We got to go do a little bit of a hike. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We also have Extreme Talauta that says, Morena. Laura, what does Morena mean?
It means good morning in the Maori language.
Hassan Nabolsi says, good morning all. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Hannah. Everybody is very nice, very polite. Hannah says, hi, Hassan. Hannah, if you had another comment, it looks like I did not see anything else that you said, Hannah. But hi, Hannah. If you have a question, we put it in the live chat. Adil says, Kia ora, Robin and Laura. I would like to know how much time does one require to explore Transport World in Invercargill? Is it a full day trip?
I wouldn't say it's an entire full day trip. I think a good amount of time to spend to see everything would be maybe an hour and a half at the least, but you'd probably want to spend maybe about 2 hours.
Wow, I disagree with that.
You do?
Yeah, I definitely disagree. I think you need a minimum of 3 hours, if not longer.
Yeah?
It is really large. I was really surprised by how large it is, but I think also it's because, you're okay with cars, but you're not like that interested. But if you actually do want to go in, take some pictures and everything, it will take you quite a while. There's a lot of different exhibitions. There's some part which they recreate some like old streets and everything like that. So no, I think there's really, really, really a lot to see there. So I think it's a half day trip for sure. And it's not a full day trip unless you are absolutely crazy about cars. If you are crazy about cars, then at that point, it's a full day trip. You can definitely spend a long time over there reading about the vehicle and everything like that. But I do think that about 3 hours would be a good time to do Transport World. And obviously, it's just one man's opinion. Laura says about an hour and a half, so it depends who you travel with as well.
Yeah.
You have to bear with who you are, who you are with, and how much can they bear in something that they may not be as interested as you are. But I still think that 3 hours, you do have plenty of time to kind of walk around and see everything. So I'd say it's about 3 hours.
Yeah, and I think, I'd say about 2 hours.
Oh, you don't have to give in. It's fine.
No, I mean, yeah. And also, obviously, you can think about, because it is similar to a museum, although they don't like to be called a museum. But if you are one of those people that when you go to a museum, you sort of read everything or you look really intensely at everything. Some people approach a museum where they just sort of are walking the entire time and they're just like taking it all in as quickly as possible and then leave. So I'd say, maybe a couple of hours for that sort of latter scenario.
All right. I hope that helps you, Adil.
I do have questions.
Hannah
again,
says,
so.
I am Jonathan's sister. So here you go. We got a whole family. We have Jonathan Vincent and Hannah Vincent both together watching us. That's quite awesome. Hassan and Jonathan and everybody is like, Hassan is a friend of Jonathan from Lebanon. Okay, that's awesome. You guys all know each other. I love it. Family reunion right here on the live chat. I'm just going to let you have your family reunion privacy, and we're going to move on to Big Dealer in the house that says Morena. That means good morning in the Maori language. Martina, do you want to read what Martina says?
I don't think I'm getting them.
It's done. Okay. We try different things for Laura to actually get your questions, but sometimes it just kind of slows down.
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Okay, so Martina says, I have 2 weeks off and I am enjoying the last summer days. Getting rainy here in the north. Autumn is waiting. Well, yeah, I mean, because autumn is like literally coming to you. For us, spring is starting right now. So as you're getting the less good weather, we're getting the really good weather coming up. So we're excited, but I'm sorry you're going to have to stay indoor for a little bit. But at least you're going to get, winter under the snow because, it's not something that we get in New Zealand anymore. We have summer, winter. So here you go. Summer, winter, Christmas. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Big Dealer in the house says, hi, guys. How are you doing, mate? Mod Hayreal says, hi, both. Do you know the progress of the City Rail link that connects Auckland Airport to Britomart? Well, it has obviously slowed down due to COVID. There's been a lot of delays and everything like that. And to be fair, this entire project, I feel that since I've been in New Zealand, I've been in New Zealand for more than 10 years, they've been working on it. So it takes such a long time to do all that. But it is finally making some progress. So I think they are scheduled to finish 2025. Is that correct? No, don't know. Okay. I think they are on schedule to finish, 2025 or something like that. But yeah. At some point, they're going to be done. But, it's like big city construction stuff. There is always a ton of delay. So I can literally find some update and give you that in the news next week. But, it's going to change again. So, yeah. And Hannah says she's glad to be here. I love it. All right, guys. So since, we're going to let you come up with some questions and everything like that for us in the live chat, we are going to be doing the travel news for you. There's been actually quite a few news in the travel realm in New Zealand. So let's do the travel news and let's get back to live chat. And as usual, we'll read everything that you send us in the live chat. All right, cool. So let's get started with the travel news. Welcome to New Zealand Travel News, a segment where we go over the news that people looking to travel to or around New Zealand may care about. We are the team behind New Zealand's largest travel guide, NZPocketGuide.com. I am Robin, and this is Laura.
All right, our first piece of news comes from Radio New Zealand, published on the 5th of September 2021, and it is entitled, Immigration New Zealand Shuts Its Beijing Office. Before the pandemic, the Beijing office decided half of all temporary visas, about 10,000 a week. Withdrawing visa processing from China ends a long program of overseas office closures, including in India, South Africa, and the Philippines in March. The only Immigration New Zealand offices that now process visas abroad are those in the Pacific. Immigration New Zealand says most staff have been able to work remotely during the lockdown on online visas, including work visas, since Tuesday. But waiting times for paper applications, such as residence and variations of conditions, have been affected. Staff decided 82,000 visas last summer, compared to 200,000 visas in the summer before the first COVID-19 lockdown.
All right, so as you can see, Immigration New Zealand has been going in kind of a streamline cure, basically, at the moment. And they've been trimming down a lot of offices around the world. And, so the very biggest office in India was closed as well not that long ago. And now they're closing the Chinese office in Beijing. And that's because I think we're going to be seeing a very different Immigration New Zealand post-COVID-19 with very different visas, conditions, and visa processing systems and processes and all these kind of things. And so I think they're going to try to centralize everything back in New Zealand to have like one big office where they can do everything under the same rules and under the same people. And they will still remain with some offices around the South Pacific. They may close one or two, but they still remain over there because New Zealand has such good ties with some of the Pacific countries.
All right, our next piece is taken from the spin-off, published on the 8th of September, and it's entitled, New Zealand to have vaccine passport by Christmas. New Zealanders will soon have access to digital proof that they've received a COVID-19 vaccination, colloquially known as the vaccine passport. A government-run app will soon be indispensable as a real passport for international travel. Many countries already require them to sit at a bar or attend a sports game. You can't climb the Eiffel Tower without one. Air New Zealand and Qantas have both announced that they'll eventually require vaccine passports. Proof of vaccination is already a condition of entry for a number of countries around the world. Just as you can't board many international flights now without the right visa, the vaccine passport will be added to your pre-flight checklist. So what will it look like? If you want to travel now to a number of destinations, you need to first request a letter from the government attesting to your vaccination status. It's a significant risk, and there are stories of countries turning down printed documents. Instead, the Ministry of Health says a digital COVID-19 vaccination certificate will be available from December for New Zealanders who want to travel overseas. The term passport can be politically loaded. Think of papers, please. So it's one of the reasons why many places around the world opt to call them certificates instead. New Zealand's app will contain a QR code, a digital signature, and a certificate itself. The certificate itself will be printable. The Health Ministry has been clear that New Zealand's passport is designed for international travel and said nothing about domestic use. Based on how passports have evolved around the world, that won't last. And that was an opinion piece. So,
so in short, right, there is already such system elsewhere in the world, right? In Europe, they have the digital vaccine certificate. In where is it? Israel, they have like the green passport. So there is system already in place, right? So New Zealand will have something which is very similar, which is going to be something, something digital, and I feel that it's really going to become the same kind of processes than having your visa and having your, your vaccine certificate, your online vaccine certificate, and it would come hand in hand when you book your flight. You need to check that you have all those kind of things, and that's going to become the new normal. However, the good news is that because New Zealand is going to have such stringent, requirements anyway for people coming into the country, I don't think that we're going to see what's happening in Europe, which is going to be like if you don't have your vaccine certificate, you can't go inside the bar and all those kind of things. So I don't think we're going to get that far in New Zealand, just because, and obviously the guy that wrote the piece says differently, but I personally don't feel like that's going to be the case because New Zealand is, getting up to such a good vaccination rate, like people are getting, into it. And on top of that, New Zealand is going to have very stringent border crossing kind of, if you want to enter New Zealand, you will have to be vaccinated. So I think we may get away without doing that. And since we don't have any land border, so we don't have anyone that can just come in randomly and everything, it may allow us to get away without having to show proof of something to get into a restaurant.
Yeah. All right. This is our final piece of travel news before we move on to the travel deals. And this is another one from Radio New Zealand, published on the 9th of September 2021, entitled COVID-19 Delta Outbreak Could Push New Zealand's Reopening Back by Months, Expert Says. Plans to reconnect New Zealand with the rest of the world will be set back, potentially by months, by the current COVID-19 Delta variant outbreak in the country. University of Otago epidemiologist Professor Michael Baker told RNZ Morning Report that was partly due to Aotearoa's limited capability to launch new initiatives, but there were multiple reasons reopening would be pushed back. The most obvious one is exactly what we've been talking about, that our capacity to launch new initiatives is limited, Baker said. It's a finite capacity, and so much of it is now being taken up with this battle against the outbreak. So that has occupied probably a couple of months of effort by the time it's finished, so that will inevitably push out any complex plans for reconnecting with other countries to a greater extent. That will involve, a trial of quarantine-free travel, which itself will be reasonably complex. But the other big change, of course, is I think all countries we're going to be connecting more with now have the Delta variant. It's absolutely dominant. It's taken over the world, essentially, so that just makes it that much tougher to do this. The response to the current outbreak has pushed the system to maximum capacity, he said.
So the only thing that is to take from this article, right, is that, well, look at the size of New Zealand, right? We have 5 million people in the country. We do not have the USA capacity of almost 400 million people, and the same thing happening in Europe with millions and millions and millions of people, right? So the amount of epidemiologists, doctors, researchers, and government workers that we have access to is very limited. And for this reason, anytime we have like an unforeseen circumstances, such as the Delta variant, such as this new lockdown, well, then all those people have to be rerouted and redirected into that new kind of emergency, and all the long-term project that we're working on will have to take a back seat for that time. So basically, any work that they were doing onto the border reopening and all that has taken that back seat while they're working on managing this new lockdown, this new outbreak. I was looking for the word outbreak. Not like we haven't heard the word outbreak enough lately, but yeah. So they're working on managing this new outbreak right here. And therefore, well, if we are spending 2-3 months managing this outbreak, well, then that means that, we're going to put all our trial of new borders opening, trial of new border policy and all that back 3 months as well. And for this reason, the New Zealand government did announce a plan for the border opening. We do have a full video on the channel when we cover that. Well, it is kind of likely that all those plans will be pushed back month again. And obviously that's not really a big news, right? We saw that happening, but it is going to affect a lot of people wanting to travel to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Anyway, for people which are currently in New Zealand, get to travel, we do like to showcase some travel deals. So since New Zealand is at alert level 2, except for Auckland, which is at alert level 4, we thought that we'd give you a deal which is available in the Southern End, which is a great place to travel to at the moment. So Laura, what do we have this week?
So this week we found a pretty awesome deal with Mount Cook Ski Planes, which is based in obviously Mount Cook in the South Island. And yeah, their new deal, which is pretty cool, is the Double Deluxe. So that's for 2 people doing a scenic flight and glacier landing for only 499 New Zealand dollars. And that's such a good deal because usually for one person, it's 399 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So that's something that we've done before. So you're going to fly around the Southern Alps, you're going to see the beautiful Mount Cook, and you get even to land on New Zealand's longest glacier, which is the Tasman Glacier. It's such a fantastic experience. And yeah, that's basically come down to about $250 a pop if you book for 2 people, which is what this deal is. And I think it's a really good deal because the experience is definitely worth it and super unique. I mean, just seeing the plane like landing, like the ski plane landing on the glacier, it's really cool.
It's the only place you can do it in New Zealand as well.
There you go. All right, so that wraps up this new segment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to reward all our hard work and stay up to date with all our videos. Plus, check out nzpocketguide.com for thousands of tips, hidden gems, and much more. All right, let's go back to the live chat. What do we have? We have Hassan that says, yep, I am from Lebanon and I want to visit New Zealand. Is it possible these days? Is it hard to get a visa?
Well, these days it is pretty hard. The borders for New Zealand are still closed to most international travelers. So that includes basically all international tourists. Only a very select few people can come to New Zealand at the moment, which includes New Zealand residents, New Zealand citizens, and, emergency essential workers, that sort of thing.
And even in that case, you have to go in a managed quarantine. Managed is isolation quarantine, MIQ.
Yes. So yeah, even if you do come to New Zealand, you do have to spend 2 weeks in a quarantine facility at your own expense. So for people trying to plan a trip to New Zealand right now, just for, casual traveling, it is pretty much impossible at the moment, unfortunately. And in terms of visa processing, in terms of if somebody wants to come here to work, for instance, on a working holiday visa, then Immigration New Zealand aren't processing visas that are, from overseas. They're focusing only on visas that are for people that are basically in New Zealand already, that need to, for instance, extend their visas, etc., etc. So, yeah, in short, it is actually quite hard to get to New Zealand nowadays.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
We have Clay that says, a question I asked last week before it all froze up.
Okay.
Yeah, the news. This week, maybe it won't froze up. Touch wood. He says, there was a chat about the Mount Cook area. Would you prefer the Muller Hut track or the Plateau Hut track for staying the night? I'm going to do one of them next. It's time we head that way.
I think the Muller, I don't know how you Muller.
Yeah.
Muller Hut track is kind of the more iconic one to do. Like that's the one that the hut facilities there are very quite fancy. I mean, it's still a hut, it's still a Department of Conservation hut, but for instance, they have gas cookers there, which you don't see at that many huts really.
No huts. I mean, very
Some of the Great Walk huts have that, for instance. But in terms of like having, it's more of an iconic place to go. I mean, getting the photos of that red hut in like when you're high up on the mountains and stuff, it's kind of like it's more iconic for a reason because it is a bit more spectacular, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're wanting if you're wanting somewhere less busy, because I think you can pretty much guarantee that the hut is going to be probably fully booked.
Yes, the Muller Hut is really, really,
really
busy.
You'll need to book it in advance for sure. So, you are going to be sharing the hut with, maximum capacity. So, I mean, if you want to go for the, more off the beaten track experience, then I definitely would go for the Plateau.
Yeah, so I totally agree. If you want the iconic kind of like New Zealand red roof hut, over the snow and everything, you go for the Muller Hut. If you want to get the place to yourself, you do the Plateau Hut. it may not have it for yourself, but you know what I mean. Like,
probably not likely, but maybe a little less crowded than the other one.
Yeah, but the one thing I'm going to say though, because I do know, so if you guys don't know Clay, he's in Dunedin. He has a whole family. He comes on the channel all the time. If you do want to do those hikes, I wouldn't take the kids with you, right? They are not like the super easy hikes and
very
everything
steep,
like So I don't think the kids will really enjoy that. It's really for you and for Lou, for your wife. I think that'd be more the thing. Okay, Henry Emeka says, I just took my first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. I just pray New Zealand opens their border before the end of this year. Well, congratulations on getting your first dose of the vaccine. That's really awesome. For New Zealand opening its border before the end of the year, it's highly unlikely. I don't want to be, giving you any straight up answer.
Bearer of bad news.
But yeah, even before the latest outbreak, when the New Zealand government did their announcement for the border opening plan, the border opening, for New Zealand would have been this year, would have been just like travel bubble with Australia, with the Cook Islands and maybe a couple of extra South Pacific islands, maybe like Singapore and everything, but like small stuff like that. But wide border opening, they were not planning on doing that at all until mid-2022 anyway. And as you saw, I don't know if you did watch this news segment that we literally just did about
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, 6 actually.
Or less.
6 minutes ago. But so if you didn't watch that new segment, but there is already some kind of train of thoughts behind the fact that it may have pushed back those plans due to this outbreak that we had right here, as we had to redirect resources into managing the current outbreak rather than working on long-term plans. And I just voiced that way better than I did during the news segment, and I'm quite upset at myself.
Maybe you could edit that bit in later.
Change. So Henry, obviously I don't want to give you anything definitive right here, but it is unlikely that there is going to be a wide border opening of New Zealand by the end of this year. But if you were talking about 2022, then perhaps there is some hopes for that, but 2021 it may not be happening. As even us, we're trying to get out of New Zealand. Not we don't trying to escape, but we do have some plans on going to travel outside of New Zealand and then come back. And there's already a lot of hoops to jump through, so we may literally not do that this year, which is rather upsetting. Cool. Clay says, he's going to do the hike without the kids, of course. Yes, so definitely, without the kids is the good call. And it says, from what I was looking up, it seemed one had a better view than the other. Yeah, I feel like Muller Hut is definitely the Instagram hotspot.
Yeah, and you get to see like the Tasman Glacier, and it's kind of the iconic sort of Mount Cook landscape you get to be sort of right in the middle of. So, yeah.
And I think, don't quote me on that, but we were just talking about, the Mount Cook ski plane and helicopter and everything. I think that they can literally fly you by helicopter over there to the hut. I think they have some package where you can get all the way to the hut by helicopter. So if you just want to take that shot and make people believe that you did the hike, but you're too lazy to do it, I think you can get over there with a helicopter.
But if you're on a budget, you might want to walk.
Yeah. It may cost you about between $500 to $1,000, but they can save you having to do the hike, which is definitely the point. When you do a hike to a hut, you usually don't want to do the hike. You just want to stay in the hut because they always have such amazing facilities.
Yes, it's like staying at the Hilton.
The Hilton Hut.
Yes.
All right, guys. You all are really quiet today. So, we'll go for some questions that we received during the week. Actually, that's not during this week. That's been a couple of weeks that Hessian asked the question.
Admittedly, it might have been last week. We should have answered it.
I'm sorry about that, Hessian. Yeah. But let's go over his question because I think it's kind of a cool question.
Okay, so we have a question from Hessian.
Shall I read the question and then you answer it?
Sure,
I think. What about we do that? All right, guys. So we did get a question on our comment section of our video. You guys can put your question in the comment section of any of our videos if you want to, and then we pick them up and we answer them live. And this one is from Hessian, and Hessian says, "Hello, Laura and Robin. I hope that you are keeping safe during this lockdown period. Me and my friend are again planning to go somewhere during Christmas week, somewhere in the South Island." He's very excited about it. There's a 5 exclamation mark. Says, "Will you be able to discuss and give me and your viewers some best places to spend the Christmas during the Christmas week in the South Island? Thank you and see you this weekend." Hessian. Look how polite he is all the time. So yeah, the South Island is a great place to visit during the Christmas week. But one piece of context beforehand: the Christmas week in New Zealand is notoriously the busiest week when traveling around, because you usually, and obviously that's not in COVID time, but usually you have the international tourists, which are usually coming in droves into New Zealand because that's a New Zealand summer, and therefore it's the high tourist season. And on top of it, you have all the locals that want to make the most of the summer and obviously enjoy their time off during Christmas time. So it's notoriously extremely busy. The good thing is that in 2021 and 2022, there's going to be much less international tourists, less to none, and therefore you'll be able to have the place much more to yourself, but it's still going to be quite busy. So we kept that in mind when coming up with some tips for you. Would you like to get started?
Yeah, so let's start off with the Abel Tasman National Park, bearing in mind that the Christmas week in New Zealand is during the summer. So if you want to make the most of the summer and get, your sort of beach landscapes, your water activities, all that sort of really, iconic summer stuff, then going to the Abel Tasman National Park is definitely right up there on the list of good places to go during Christmas. There's many different things you can do in the Abel Tasman National Park. You can go on kayaking tours. You can do the Abel Tasman Coast Track, which is a New Zealand Great Walk. It's a multi-day trail, which I think it goes for about 5 or 6 days, but you can cut that much shorter by taking a water taxi back to the start.
You're lazy.
That's what I did. And yeah, and also there's eco tours, for instance. You can just go on a nice cruise, or even they have a Waka canoe tour there now. So if you want to have a Maori experience, there's that as well. So yeah, lots to do in the Abel Tasman National Park and get that stunning sort of, summer scenery.
So if you want something really different, and you still want your wintry Christmas, which is pretty hard to find when it's summer in this country, you could head out to the few places that are going to have snow in New Zealand. And I'm obviously talking about the heli hike experiences. So you can do Franz Joseph, you can do Fox Glacier, or you can do the Tasman Glacier. And there are 3 places where you can take a heli hike. That means you get into a helicopter, you fly all the way on top of a beautiful glacier, and you kind of hike around, check out ice caves and all this kind of thing. Then you take the helicopter back down in the valley. If you are going in the Mount Cook area, you can also do some ski plane tours as well, which is basically without the hustle of the whole hiking thing. You literally just ski land on the glacier, and then you hang out on New Zealand's longest glacier, and you're all done. So that's kind of like your way to get snow for Christmas on the South End. That'd be the one way to do it.
Yeah. So Robin did mention that Christmas is basically the busiest week for tourism in New Zealand. So even if there are currently, at the time of recording this video, it's still like the borders are closed, so there's not international tourists, but it's still going to be pretty busy everywhere else because of locals getting good time off work and stuff. So if you wanted to get away from the crowds, go somewhere awesome that's a little bit off the beaten track, then we have 2 suggestions for you. You can go to Stewart Island, which is the island right off the southern coast of the South Island. Over there, you can do all sorts of things. You can do lots of beautiful hikes. You can go on fishing tours. You can go and see kiwi birds and go to the beautiful Ulva Island, which is an amazing bird sanctuary where you'll get to see probably more birds than anywhere else in New Zealand. And you can, go and try some fish and chips at the Kai Cart or at the hotel. They probably, I imagine at the hotel, they would do something for Christmas. They would probably have some special sort of Christmas feast or anything. Not sure if that's official or not, but I imagine they would do something like that. So on Stewart Island, that would be a really cool place to get off the beaten track. And you can access Stewart Island by either taking the ferry from Bluff or by taking a flight from Invercargill. Another off the beaten track area you could go to is Caramir, which is right at the top of the west coast of the South Island. It's a very little known town really, but it is very close to some really epic natural attractions, in particular the Oparara Basin, which is full of different caves, some of the largest limestone arch in the Southern Hemisphere or in Australasia. Which is the Oparara Arch, and lots of really amazing sort of limestone features in the dense forest of the Karurangi National Park, and there's lots of really short walks to do there, so it's not something that's going to be too excessive or demanding. So yeah, in that area, that is a good place to sort of, get away from the crowds, but also get to see some really awesome New Zealand scenery. Moving on to some more sort of town locations or city locations you can go to during Christmas. For instance, you can go to Christchurch. Obviously, this is the longest, but this is the largest city in the South Island. So there's always something going on there during Christmas. It's a good place to go and, see the Christmas decorations. If you're into lots of pretty lights and stuff, they'll have all that going on there. Also, during the Christmas week, they have their Christmas in the Park event going on. Usually they have that on every year. And I know at the moment, at the time of recording, they're looking for, performers to do it. So I assume it's going to be on again this year.
Yeah.
I think
it's going to be depending on if there's an outbreak or not. But,
depending on the current circumstances. So yeah, there's usually that sort of stuff going on. There's also Christmas markets, typically around mid-December. So so in terms of getting that sort of Christmas feel, community events and things that are happening, Christchurch is a good place to go. Alternatively, you can go to the tourist hub of the South Island, which is Queenstown. So over there, there's obviously things happening specifically for Christmas. If you go to the nearby Arrowtown, they have Christmas markets there, which is, set in the sort of beautiful sort of pioneering town of Arrowtown, where they have their preserved historic buildings.
Setting.
Yes. So you can go and do that Arrowtown Christmas market over there. In Queenstown, if you are desperate for that sort of Christmas snow, they do have, I think, 2 ice bars that you can go and go get cold in.
Walking freezers.
Yeah. And also, the Skyline Gondola usually has a Christmas feast going on at the top of the gondola. I think it's called the Stratosphere Bar, or maybe I'm getting that mixed up with Rotorua. But anyway, their sort of restaurant they have at the top of the Skyline Gondola, they usually have Christmas events and sort of big buffet feasts and stuff happening for that. And of course, you're in Queenstown, so there's a million different other things you can be doing if you want to go jet boating, bungee jumping, skydiving, whitewater rafting, canyoning, etc., etc. Of course, check out nzpocketguide.com for lots of information on the things to do in Queenstown, because we have all that on the website that you can check out for free and sort of plan your trip that way. But yeah, Queenstown is another really awesome option for a place to go for Christmas on the South Island.
All right, so this wraps up all suggestions for things to do for Christmas on the South Island. So don't forget to like and subscribe to reward our hard work and to stay up to date with all our videos. Plus, check out nzpocketguide.com for thousands of tips, hidden gems, and much more. Let's go back to the live chat. We had Mark Lockwood that says, Tom Cruise been filming near me today for a new film, Mission Impossible. He was 1 mile away in Lake District.
Oh, wow.
Well, I can't confirm this information, but that's cool.
Sounds like the sort of thing he would do.
Yeah, and he will fit right in, in the Hobbit country. He's not that tall, so, he will fit very well in New Zealand, so awesome.
Yeah, that wasn't the last Mission Impossible was filmed in New Zealand.
Yeah, Milford side did the helicopter scenes over there.
Yeah, you can actually tell when you do watch the movies. You can, if you've been to Milford Sound and you've done a road trip down the Milford Road, you actually do really fully recognize it as a scene. Like I know when you look at a lot of other movies where New Zealand's been featured, you're kind of like, I can't quite picture it. But yeah, in one of the latest, I guess it was the latest Mission Impossible movie.
I think it was Rogue Nation, but I don't know. That was terrible.
We're not huge Mission Impossible nerds or anything, but yeah.
Boom, boom, pew, pew.
Yeah, but yeah, you could tell it was New Zealand in it. So that was fun. That was fun to watch.
What else do we have? Henry Emeka says, all right, thank you both. How is schooling over there in New Zealand?
Well, from what we've heard, because obviously we don't have first-hand experience in that because we don't have kids. We haven't gone to school ourselves in New Zealand. So obviously we can just say that.
Me no English.
We don't hear too many complaints. Basically, it's
we have 2 friends with that, which are actually teachers in New Zealand. We should know more about schooling.
We should, yeah.
I mean, should know more.
Teachers like to come to New Zealand to teach, so it must be pretty good.
Yeah, so we have two
Yeah.
friends which are teachers here in New Zealand, and they don't seem to complain too much. So yeah, but that's as much as we know about it. I think you should ask like more somebody which is in charge of like
Yeah.
education and everything. We're here to talk about traveling in New Zealand, so we won't really attempt to answer this question for fear to give you misinformation, and we like to avoid that. But yeah, I should get one of those teachers to come and sit down with me and have a chit chat with you guys at some point, because damn, we need to sort this out at some point. People ask us about education all the time. Okay, what do we have? Adil says, thank you very much for your answer on the transport world question and to answer your poll question. So yes, I do have a poll question. I completely forgot, but you guys asked me to do a poll like every week. So this time I came up with, have you ever visited nzpocketguide.com? Ever? And so far 81% of you guys says yes. And there has been how many votes? How do I know that? 27 votes. So look at that. Wow. We had at least 20 people on the website. Woo! All right. All right, he says, yes, I have visited the website. It's really helpful, user-friendly, and easy to understand. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much. So you're one of those that likes reading. Interesting. Clay says, another mission impossible. Jeez, clearly these missions aren't impossible.
Yeah, true.
Well,
true
yeah.
that.
I have to say, it's becoming a little bit. I did really like the first one, and the first one with Tom Cruise. I did really like it because I think it did something a little bit more new and everything like that. But now it's just yet another action blockbuster. It's a little bit like
just Tom Cruise running around doing his own stunts. I want to do more of my own stunts.
Yeah,
that's what Mission Impossible is.
Isn't he going to space soon to do a movie? Yeah, he's going to space soon. Is that a partnership with SpaceX?
Is he doing his own stunts?
Yeah, he's going to space, like with SpaceX, to do a movie. Is what they want to do the first movie filmed in space, I think. I don't know. We're not here to do cinema news, but I think he's going nuts. Okay, we have Hannah Vincent that says, we hiked up the Ruaine Ranges a few weeks ago. It's awesome to be out in beautiful, honest nature.
Honest nature,
The Ruaine Ranges are quite good. Laura, we've explored the Ruaine Ranges a few times, haven't we?
Yes, so the Ruaine Ranges are sort of a mountain range that goes down this kind of in the middle of the North Island.
It's our backyard, so we really like it.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit.
It's all like that.
But yeah. So there's heaps of different hikes in the Ruaine Ranges, and lots of beautiful forest, lots of amazing views and huts you can get up to as well. We do cover the Ruaine Ranges quite extensively on nzpocketguide.com. nzpocketguide.com. So yeah, you should
put it on screen just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we are big fans of the Ruaine Ranges ourselves, and a lot of people living in the North Island or sort of the central North Island going down to Palmerston North. That's usually a lot of locals like to go there as well.
And one of the favorites over there is going to Sunrise Hut. It's obviously great art.
Sunrise. Okay, that's where you're going with that.
What else do we have? Jonathan Vincent says they went to Sunrise Hut. Here you go. It's a popular spot. Henry Emeka says the New Zealand government should have allowed vaccinated people in, since that's what they really want, than closing the border for too long. I believe things will be cool and better. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to kind of comment on what they should have done. Like shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's always like, it's a hard thing to say. But the other thing to keep in mind is that even during the current outbreak that we're having right now, right, we had over 100 people which have contracted COVID, but that were already vaccinated. It's not 100% foolproof, right? No vaccine is. And so for this reason, it's still allowing a risk in. And also, since there is already a lot of stories, especially in the US, of people fudging like the vaccine passports and all those kind of things, and having like fake vaccine cards to go into bars and everything like that. I think that since there is not even a standardized option just yet, and actually the US government has said that they didn't want to have a standardized option, at least nationally. They will do something internationally, but nationally they don't want to put rules of like, you have to have this exact certificate and everything like that. It's kind of tough to kind of allow that, because then you have to cater for like, every single country's different kind of ways to deal with that. And so, again, with such a small nation, New Zealand, the amount of resources available to us is minimal. Like, we only have, and it's not a joke, we will only have a team of like 10 or 20 people working on that. That is basically what we can allocate, right? So we only have that small amount of people to work on all those different processes and bylaws and new rules and all these kind of things. And so we just don't have the capacity to be able to organize that. So I think that as much as it is a matter of like, oh, we don't want anyone coming to New Zealand because they may have COVID or any of that, it's also like, how can we implement this? We just don't have the manpower to do that just yet. Or woman power. I am not, pun. But yeah, so there is also that to keep in mind as well, right? So you have to understand that it's not just we are being super strict. It's also we're also working with the constraint that we currently have, i.e., how much people can work on things and how much budget can we allocate on those things in order to sort it out. So until we have like something really standardized worldwide that New Zealand can tag along, and therefore that saves a lot of the manpower. You just have to say, well, we part on that program, and then most of the work has been done. There's still a little bit of work, obviously, but most of the work has been done. Then that's something that we can allow ourselves to do, and we've done that in the past, like in a lot of different things. We just tagged along into some projects and everything like that. And I think that this is kind of going to be our approach because we have and it's kind of hard to say that way, but we kind of have the luxury of time since we control the outbreak quite a lot. There's not too crazy of an emergency, and obviously a lot of tourism business in New Zealand, which was the largest industry in the country before COVID, including our business as well. We definitely are feeling that there is kind of a bit of there is no luxury of time. There is a bit of a time pressure, but when it comes down to like the New Zealand government side of things, well, they see it as we have the luxury of time, so let's do things well and well in the first time. That's just going to be my take on that. Obviously, it's only my opinion, and it's just based on news stories that I've seen. It's not based on the actual fact. I just want to make that really clear why it's not misinformation. I think it's just what I'm seeing and the way I'm interpreting. Yeah, I think the actions of the government currently. So yeah, but you guys are more than welcome to pitch in. Obviously, your input is also kind of valuable within this discussion right here, in like the two people in front of a stupid camera setup that we have right here. But it's kind of that's how we're seeing it at the moment for now. Henry and Mika keep going and says because they're just frustrating people and make money from visitors from tourism. Yeah. So yeah, they are frustrating people that are working in tourism. They are, but on the other hand, I feel like if COVID-19 would have taken a really big toll and we will have lost some people, because I think in New Zealand also we are running the risk to lose much more people per capita than we will have in other countries, such because the amount of health facility that we have is not really big, right? So I think we will cope well, and I know some countries are coping pretty badly, right? But I think that we will cope well worse than a lot of other developed countries if we had an absolute major outbreak, because we really don't have that many ICU beds and everything like that. So, and also you have to look as well as at the long-term effect of COVID, right? Like, it's not just, okay, people are going to get COVID and then, some people are going to die and everything like that, right? But you also have to realize that every single time one person gets COVID, it takes that many hours, let's say 10, and I'm making up numbers, right? But let's say it takes 10 hours out of a doctor's time, right? During these 10 hours, he could have done 10 one-hour consultation for someone that has cancer or any other things, right? So those people are going to stay with those conditions for longer. They're not going to get treated, and therefore those people are going to get sicker, and therefore, so it's kind of a snowball effect, right? You don't just have the COVID thing to see. You have the whole health system to see as well. I think that there's going to be an impact of COVID, which is going to be extremely long-lasting on people which have had to delay treatment for other illnesses, and therefore this is going to make those illnesses worse, and it's going to cost more to solve or even be less solvable, and therefore this is going to have those costs as well. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So I obviously a lot of tourism businesses, and some tourism businesses are closing. It's kind of a daily thing that we hear, right? And especially at NZ Pocket Guide, we get press release and all those kind of things where we know we have to remove some businesses from the from the website. For example, there is a fantastic bar and restaurant that we feature on New Zealand's biggest gap here. We're in Fox Glacier, called the Bigfoot Bar and Restaurant. You can see us have awesome pizzas over there with some mate of ours. Well, sadly, it closed this week, and they're selling all their chattels and everything. So it does have a toll on other things. But if you look at the long-term aspect of things, I think it is going to put New Zealand in a good position. And I think that the current frustration that people are going to feel is not going to outweigh the attractiveness of a country like New Zealand. I think that's what they're banking on. Obviously, it's very opinionated, what I just said right here, but yeah, I think that's the gamble that the authority are taking. Anything you want to add? No?
I think you've talked enough about that.
So Henry said, you both are really doing a nice job, and I appreciate, and I believe also others appreciate. Thanks. We love you guys. Oh, that's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, so obviously everything I just said was opinions, right? And that may be wrong, and I technically would like to be wrong. Like, we do run a New Zealand tourism business here. We technically would like travelers to come tomorrow, right? It would be better for us. Yeah. But we also, sometimes you kind of have to look at the glass half full. Otherwise, you
and there's also, although there are people in the tourism industry that are, frustrated at the moment, there are also, like, public opinion has been kind of like people, the majority of sort of the population in New Zealand, there's been a lot of studies and, like, a lot of polls and stuff, and a lot of people are happier with the way that it was handled during the pandemic. So yeah, although there are, like, I think, like, the tourism businesses are kind of considered a minority when it comes to, like, the sort of how people feel about how COVID was handled.
Yeah, let's not forget that there was a national election during COVID, and the Labour government got their biggest victory ever in history, right? So they got a mandate to keep doing what they were doing. So let's not forget that they, by the result of the poll, got the support of the people, like, big time. So let's not forget about that as well. Nathan Bath says, how often do you update the website NZ Pocket Guide?
Well, we're pretty much updating every day. There's always something to update. But yeah, for instance, there's sections on nzpocketguide.com. When you read an article, you go to the bottom, and there's a useful and useless feature.
It needs improvements. I removed the word useless because people were not happy with it. So we don't want to code
so we have a useful and needs improvement feature. So we do get people, if there are things that have changed that we haven't, received a press release on, or something random closes down, then usually there are those little updates that need to be done pretty much every day. We get those sort of things. So
we update the website every day. We write new content every day. It's our full-time job, right? So literally every day we are on NZ Pocket Guide, and we update, tweak, add content, and do that. So it's a daily thing.
Yeah, it's not a standstill website, and that's kind of why our website is compared to, for instance, having a travel guide. I'm sure you've all been in the situation before where you're going around with your Lonely Planet travel guide, and you're kind of like, this is closed, this is closed, this is closed. But this is kind of what we really want to make sure nzpocketguide.com is actually a travel guide that is up to date for you guys, and that's why it's just online. So we're able to update it for you guys all the time. So yeah, that's what NZ Pocket Guide is all about. It's meant to be updated, and so you guys can get get the latest information for traveling around New Zealand.
And Nathan asked where Whitbix is. He's here. He's our new director. He has a little chair over there. He's watching us.
Says Whitbix on the back of his director's chair.
Says light, camera, action. So yeah, he was there. Tem Wakefield asks you, what's your favorite New Zealand city?
Ooh, favorite city.
It's going to change every day, but
Yeah. Okay, so what is classed as a city? I guess, like, the largest cities sort of in New Zealand are there's Auckland, there's Christchurch, there is Wellington. I think Napier is kind of classed as a city. Rotorua is classed as a city.
I think he's asking city as a general term. I don't think he's bothered too much about the definition between city and town. So, what's your favorite?
My favorite city.
I'm gonna go first.
Can you go first?
I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna say Wellington. I'm gonna go big, just because when you walk in Wellington city centre, and once you find parking, and you got rid of your car, because otherwise it's a mess. But if you find parking and you got rid of your car and you just walk around Wellington, it really doesn't feel like a capital city. It feels like a small town and everything, but it's kind of tall-ish. And so, I don't know, it has this kind of feel of like the little big city or something like that. It's kind of like, it's really cool. So I really enjoy that. And also, I love kind of like sitting down at the coffee shop, and, they really have a lot of different coffee shop and everything. And I love the nightlife in Wellington as well. So I'm going to say my favorite city is in Wellington. And I'm going to give you a bonus reason why it's my favorite city is because it's your getaway to the South Island. I damn love the South Island. So here you go. That'd be mine for you, Tem. Laura, do you have one
actually,
now?
I do. Yes, I do have one now. So I actually did say this to Robin recently, that I think if there was a New Zealand city that I wouldn't mind living in, because personally I'm not really a city person, but
so we're not city people. We're living in the countryside in New Zealand, right?
A city that I think I would most prefer to live in would be Dunedin. It's very close by to some really awesome places like the Otago Peninsula, where you can see some amazing wildlife like sea lions, penguins, seals, albatross, all that sort of thing. So
it's the most wildlife city, I would say, like in New Zealand.
But also in the city, like in the actual urban places itself, it looks very different to other New Zealand cities. It has some very, fancy architecture. It's got sort of Gothic style architecture and things. So it looks pretty cool. There's also some really awesome eateries, places to, bars and stuff, and some pretty cool museums as well. They have two really awesome museums there, the Otago Museum and the Toitu Settlers Museum, for instance.
Sorry, I have the Te Papa Museum in my city in Wellington.
Yeah.
So
they also have like brewery tours. You can go to like the Spates Brewery, the Emerson Brewery.
I have hundreds of bars with craft beers.
That's true.
Should we do a fight? Wellington versus Dunedin.
There's also I had some other stuff, but there's lots of actual, when it comes to actually doing sort of city activities, Dunedin does have some pretty cool stuff to do.
And I'm just gonna have to read a comment right here that says there is also in Dunedin some pretty cool plumbers. And I do agree.
I mean, you can rely on the sort of your plumbing to be done well in Dunedin.
Yeah, the Bryant Company of Plumbing, Bryant and Son, Plumbing and Co. Company of Plumber, pretty awesome. So Tem, that's for today. And obviously, it changes on the fields. Sometimes you just feel like something else. But what's your favorite city in New Zealand, Tem? Wakefield, tell us. We have Big Dealer in the house that says, thanks guys for all the information. That's so lovely. And Sonny Comstock is kicking us out and says, stay safe, but I'm here until the end. Have a good week. Nathan Baith is not to be undone and says, stay safe, but I'm here until the end of the live stream. And Extreme Talata says, see you guys next week. You guys are all kicking us out. Tem, where are we on? Clay says, Dunedin is considered a city too. Come on, guys. Oh, you see, Laura got you back.
Yeah. I was just trying to remember the cities. I hadn't had an answer where to start off with the question. So I was just listing some cities until I liked one.
I feel like you got so narrow that like what
what's a city? Yeah.
So Tem says his favorite city is Napier. It's sunny and cool.
Yeah.
I do think Napier, I have to say, I think Napier is, if we go for the actual proper definition of city, Napier is a city.
So we are going for a proper definition.
If we are.
Which we are.
Oh my God, this is becoming. Welcome to Semantic.
And also, the thing with New Zealand as well is that their cities are so small and their towns are so small that you do sort of need to think like, is it a city or a town? It is actually quite confusing in New Zealand compared to in Europe or.
Queenstown is not a city.
No, it's not. But some people do consider it a city. Yes. Rotorua, for instance, is a city. However, when you're there, you kind of feel like it's more of a small town. So, it is actually quite confusing in New Zealand. What's a city? What's a town?
I don't think Rotorua is a city. No, Rotorua is a city, but Taupo is not. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Rotorua is a city. Queenstown is not. And I think there is a definition in New Zealand for a city is, because I did look this up. But there is a definition. It does depend on the population, and once it reaches the population mark, then that becomes a city. Okay. What that population mark is, I cannot remember.
Now, can I get back to Napier? So, if we go for the proper definition of city, I actually do think that Napier is one of the most unique cities in New Zealand. The feel when walking around the town, this all Art Deco style and everything really comes through, Like every city is kind of like branding itself as this or that or this and that, right? But honestly, the branding really works in Napier, and it really feels like it. And I think Napier is definitely really cool. And there is the beautiful Gannet colony nearby, and I love that. And Tem also recommends Mahia. He says he's from Mahia, and Napier loves Mahia. Yep. So we have a video. We explored a little bit the Mahia Peninsula. Have you seen a rocket launch from the Mahia Peninsula yet? I'd be keen to know that. What else we have? Nathan says, have a great day. See you next Sunday. See you next Sunday, mate. Thank you very much for popping in. Loved that. We have Clay that says, fun fact, Dunedin is the largest city in New Zealand, but by land area.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
That
I would
is.
have thought Auckland was.
Really? I think Auckland must be larger than Dunedin.
Or maybe, or is it just like the land area when it comes to the city centre? Or
or
in
you're
the
not
city?
counting the suburbs and everything.
Yeah.
Auckland has to be bigger than Dunedin.
Yeah.
Depends if you exclude the suburbs, but then you exclude the suburb in Auckland and you just have the damn CBD, which is tiny. So interesting.
Interesting, controversial fact. I think.
Yes. I'd like to fact check that fun fact. To see how fun it is. If it's fun, yes, but is it a fact? Because we're not sure if it's a fact.
Facts are not fun if they're not facts. Right.
Oh, that's the most boring fun things you ever said.
And that's a boring fact.
Clay says, look it up. Yeah, well, I'll have to look it up. I'm not attempting to look it up right now because otherwise, the live session, you know how the internet has been working lately.
We dare not Google anything at this point.
But I'd look it up just for interest there. All right. So it's time for us to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us for an awesome live session again. We did talk about a lot of stuff, favorite cities, things to do for Christmas. We did the news as well. We gave our opinion on COVID-19 responses from the government, or at least maybe half opinion, half maybe a little bit of context to understand as well. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It was really awesome to have you guys come and actually talk about traveling in New Zealand, which we did quite a lot right now, which I think is really good. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. And yeah, if we didn't get to your question, make sure to come back next week and ask it again. But usually we do read every comment, but sometimes we fall a little bit behind. So one thing that I've noticed, guys, is that sometimes when you're the last few people to ask the question, we just don't get to see them because the live session is finished beforehand. So if sometimes we miss the last couple of questions that you guys sent, it's not because we didn't want to answer them, or it's not because we didn't love you. It's just because we don't necessarily see them all the time. Yeah. So just feel free to either put them in the comment section of the video when it gets republished, or to just come back next week and ask it a little bit earlier. In the meantime, you all have a fantastic week, and we see you next week at the same time, 8 a.m. New Zealand time, every Sunday. Bye-bye.
See you next week.